and start yelling at her, because then things start getting thrown and then the whole holiday's gone. So it's required a lot of talking in the whole family. And it's been hard for them, and they still don't actually want to say mental illness, and neither did I. When I first found out, and I have to say, the person that was able to diagnose and point us in the right direction finally was a therapist counselor on her campus at school that she finally went to. You know, I had seen her kind of deteriorating a little. She'd come home disheveled looking and difficult, and I thought, well, it's her senior year, she's got a lot of work, she's probably stressed out, she's trying to get a job, it's all that. But the therapist, when she went to and finally said, I'm feeling suicidal, I feel like I can't go on, and the therapist made some recommendations and came up with a diagnosis that was the first time something made sense. And the first thing I did when I heard it was probably what a lot of people do. I went online and I said, okay, what is this? And what I found was so scary. I now say, don't go online when you're here. And indicated that, you know, we were kind of pretty much doomed. There was, you know, it's high risk of suicide, lifelong this. And in the beginning, we couldn't even find a therapist to deal with it, because it is the kind of thing that therapists run away from because the patients are difficult to treat. And I kept thinking, shoot, if I can't even find a therapist who'll deal with it, you know, what's going to happen with us? But after several tries, we did find a therapist, and that therapist, they all insisted that she had to be in a group too, DBT group. You have to do this homework, and you have to be with these groups. And she was very resistant, and it was very expensive, and I didn't push it. But then we realized that was necessary, and so she did that. She went to the therapist to kind of get to the roots of what's going on in your life and what has happened in your life and how have you dealt with trauma and all the wrong things your mother did raising you that caused this. And then she had the group where they talked about how do you deal with your emotions, and how do you recognize what triggers you, and how do you feel an episode coming on, how do you back away, how do you detach. And I tell you, the homework and the books that she had to study, and this was all going on while she was in San Francisco and I was here. We had a big battle over whether she should stay in school or come home, and I just had to pray and trust God and left her there. She was determined to finish, and went back and forth a lot. But so we were not, you know, I was not with her physically. But when she'd come home and she'd bring her homework and we'd look at it, I realized we all needed some of what they talked about, and that the trauma of my husband's death kind of lingered for all of us, and we all had our less dramatic, you know, mental issues going on. So it was kind of a revelation for us. But she really, really attacked that and took it on, and also in terms of well-being, did things like she stopped smoking cigarettes. She began to get her diet really good. She took up meditation. She started going to a gym. She met a young man who was lovely and patient and tender and loves her through all of this, and actually studied her triggers and things with her so he could recognize what's going on. So she's really come a long, long way, and when I look at her now and I see a child who is not that kind of disheveled, angry, despairing young woman that I found when I went up to her apartment the day she called and said, Mom, I can't do this anymore, I can't go on. And now I look at her, and now she's out marching, and she's got a job she loves, and she's working, volunteering to help young people who are struggling with mental issues. And it's just an incredible, it's an amazing, it's amazing. Yeah. I will say she still is mentally ill. She still flies into rages. She still does irrational things. But the difference is now she understands, and when she's done, she kind of takes a deep breath and she will apologize. We had just the other night a big, huge fight and yelling at me, and you know, and I don't understand. And I'm always the villain, of course, whatever's going on. And I finally said, and this is my own self-care, you know what, honey? I can't give you the answer you need to this right now, but I am sure you will figure it out. You're a smart girl, and I'm just sure you will figure it out, and I have to go because I can't do this right now. Click. And she called back a few times and I didn't pick up. And then in the morning I got a text that said, "Mommy, I'm sorry. I don't hate you. It's not your fault. And I hope you forgive me." And I get those now. So she now has kind of insight into her behavior, even when she can't quite control it. And I think that's probably about as good as it gets in this. I can't say I'm grateful that she has a mental illness. It's not a burden I would wish on anybody. And I know it is a lifelong issue. But I can say that our struggles have taught us a lot, and have taught me a lot. I have learned the value of listening and of validating. And early on, I had to have a talk with the therapist because my daughter would call raging about some insignificant or imaginary thing. And I would say, "Oh, honey, it's not that bad. Look at the bright side. This is the good." And she would start screaming at me again. And the therapist said, "She's not calling you for you to save her. That's not what you do. What she needs you to listen and to validate, because if you don't, you're saying that what is happening in her mind is not real." So I had to learn, which is totally against the way I was always a problem solver. You go to mom fixes it. So I had to learn to listen and to validate her, even when she's being unreasonable. And I had to come to grips with my own deficiencies as a mother, and that some of the things I thought were so good as I was raising my kids, like being the problem solver. I really wanted always them to be comfortable because they had this horrible trauma of losing their father, and so they would never have another bad day again. And that was my mission. And I realized by doing that, I kind of took away from them the confidence that they can handle their own problems. So it's late for me to rectify that now, but it has made me much more kind of thoughtful about what I'm doing and much more aware of my role as a mother, which is not to fix everything. It is to love and support them as they grow and as they develop the confidence to handle their own issues. I've also learned how to conserve my own energy and my own peace of mind, and that it used to be she would have me so roiled from a conversation and screaming and all of that I couldn't function. I mean, I can remember how many nights I went around as she started screaming, and my main thing was to go around closing all the windows in the house so no one could hear us. The neighbors couldn't hear it. Now I've learned to detach and to understand that this is like a storm that's brewing, and you kind of sometimes just have to hide and survive that storm so the tornado doesn't whisk you away. And then when it's over, you can look and kind of repair the damage. So I try to reason with her. I try not to get worked up. And I just try to, accept that she's 300 miles away from me and she will handle her own issues as best she can, and I have faith and confidence in her. The gifts that I've gotten from this, first of all, it's validated and reaffirmed and strengthened my faith in God, because that is all I had many times. I can't do anything about this, so this is just in your hands. As I said, everybody has one child that keeps you on your knees. And I've learned that has been a salvation for me. It helped me to fully see and really unconditionally love her. And I know we say that about all our kids, you just unconditionally love them. But you always want them to be just a little bit different, a little bit better, and if they only could do this. And I have discovered things about her. We talk more and more honestly now than ever before. And one of her issues that the therapist raised with me was that she always felt this need to please me, and that was always kind of her driving force, and that was a big thing that complicated her recovery. And so now I listen to her and I think of her as more of a peer, and there's a lot of stuff she says that I don't like, that scares me or discourages me, but I listen like I would my friend, and not like I'm the boss of her. I've learned the power and the importance of getting support from people who have been through what you have been through, and of not feeling ashamed. When I had to tell my boss, because I had to begin taking off work a lot to go up to San Francisco at the drop of a hat to see her or to meet with therapists, or because I couldn't reach her and I was scared. And I had to finally tell my boss, why I needed this time off. And, and I've kind of, my girls have been known really good, well-adjusted. I'm a great mother. So here was the proof that I wasn't. And my boss really surprised me. She very calmly said, oh, you know what, my daughter went through something like that. And it had been 8 years, and her daughter was also still struggling, but was also married and had a family and was doing well. And so I realized it's not, it's a lot more common than I thought, and it's not shameful. And I sat in that office and I cried, and I said, this has made me feel like a terrible parent. I know that's irrational. And she said, no, that's how we feel. That's how you feel. When something's wrong with your child that you can't fix, you feel like a terrible parent. And so it kind of normalized my feelings. And then I began to find out, as I began to share with other people, I found out all through my newsroom, there were people going through the same thing, including the publisher of the newspaper came and sat in my office one day and told me about his niece that he was raising that is diagnosed with the same thing my daughter is. And so I realized that there is this big family, that we are a huge tribe, and that if the more we talk about it, I have not enough fingers now to count how many people in the last 3 years since I've been talking about this have come to me, friends, co-workers, friends of friends, with, very privately to say, my son is going through this, or my daughter just got put in a hospital. What do I do? And they're afraid to talk to anybody. They're ashamed, they're embarrassed. And so the biggest lesson I've learned is that silence doesn't serve anybody's needs. And that we all depend on each other, and that the more we're willing to talk about it, the less stigma there is, and the less afraid our loved ones will have to be to get care. So I'm really glad to be here, because honestly too, when people come to me and ask for help, I don't always know what to tell them. So I'm here now, to learn as much as to share. I know everybody's journey is different, and every specific illness is different, and everyone's prospects are different, and their own recovery and maintenance and just survival will be different. But we are, a tribe that shares something, and we are emerging from the shadows of stigma as more people talk about it. And I feel right now blessed by our family's journey. I feel we have been, many times I felt we're in the woods. We are in the very dark woods surrounded by a lot of big trees, and it's very scary. But we're making our path through there, and we're recognizing that some of these trees are actually pretty beautiful and pretty profound. And so I don't know, thank you all for being here. I want you all, as you keep your children in mind, keep all of our children in mind. I am honored to represent Steve Pittman now, who is the president of the National Board of Nami, and is going to talk about what we all need and some of the, I don't want to call them solutions, but just what we all need for self-care.